Hello, everybody. Everything new under the sun. Christmas, is it a pagan holiday? We're going to talk about that today. Now, this is a video I did back in 2017 about the pagan roots of Christmas. Now, the production isn't very good, but I hope you'll bear with it and listen to it because I think the information is good nonetheless. So, is it a pagan holiday? Let's have a look at it. All right, hey folks, everything new under the sun. I want to talk about Christmas, and is Christmas a pagan holiday? We're going to take a look at some of the history, some of the etymology of the word Christmas and holiday, and we're going to find out. We're going to learn something here. So, Christmas, is it a pagan holiday? Well, first, we're going to ask a couple of questions here, and we're going to try and answer those questions. What does holiday mean? We're going to start out with holidays to find out what holiday means, because many of you may not know what it actually means. And then what does Christmas mean? What is the root word of it? What is the etymology of it? Where does it come from? And then Christmas as a holiday itself, what are its origins? And where did it come from? Did Christians create it? And then finally, does it actually matter where it came from and whether you celebrate it, and should you celebrate it? So first, what does holiday mean? Well, holiday is an Old English word, and it stands for holy day. Holy day, consecrated day, religious anniversary, Sabbath, from halig, holy, day, meaning both religious festival and day of exemption from labor and recreation, but pronunciation and sense diverged. As an adjective's mid-15th century, happy holidays is from the mid-19th century in British English with reference to summer vacation from school. So first of all, holiday, Holiday, originally stood for holy day. It was meant for a religious day where you didn't work. It was consecrated. It was set apart, set aside. And so that's where all your holidays come from. That's where the word holiday. Now, many of our holidays have nothing to do with religion at all. And they're just holidays that we have off for whatever, family day or whatever it may be. So that's the root, the etymology of holiday. All right, what does Christmas mean? Well, Christmas is an annual festival of the Christian church commemorating the birth of Jesus. That's what most Westerners understand about what Christmas is. Celebrated on December 25th and now generally observed as a legal holy day and an occasion for exchanging gifts. Now, this the word came out of the Middle East and from Old English as well. And the Old English before 1150 meant the Mass of Christ, or Christi's Mass. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but Christi's Mass, and that's what and it means Mass of Christ. So what is the etymology of Christmas? Well, Christmas is a shortened, and you can't see much of that. Let me see if I can move that down a wee bit here. Let me move this down. This is from Wikipedia. You don't need to see that link. There we go. Etymology is a shortened form of Christ's Mass. It is derived from the Middle English Christmas, which is from Old English Christomasse, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, a phrase first recorded in 1038, followed by the word Christi's Messe in 1131. Christ is from the Greek Christos, a translation of the Hebrew Messiah, or Messiah, meaning anointed, and Mass is from the Latin Missa, the celebration of the Eucharist. The form of Christian Mass was also historically used, but is now considered archaic and dialectal. It derives from the Middle English Christen Mass, literally Christian Mass, so a gathering, a celebration about Christ for the Christians, basically. Xmas is an abbreviation of Christmas, particularly found in print based on the initial letter chi, or chi, X in the Greek. Christos, Christ, through numerous style guides, discourages its use. And I think Christians would also frown on the use of Xmas as well. That kind of hides a little bit about what we celebrate it for. So what is Mass? Is that just a Catholic thing? Well, Mass is a term used to describe the main Eucharist liturgical service in many forms of Western Christianity, more Catholic. The term Mass is commonly used in the Catholic Church, Anglican, as well as some Lutheran churches, Methodist, Western Rite Orthodox, and Old Catholic churches. Some Protestants employ terms such as divine service or service of worship rather than the word Mass. So Christmas, Christ, Christian, and Mass, service, liturgical, Eucharistic. The Eucharist is the body and the blood of Christ. And the liturgical, meaning the format of the service, etc. So Christmas, so that's kind of the root words, that's kind of where it comes from. Again, just because I like to learn things and I like to teach things, and I think we should understand the etymology, the root words, where these things come from, just to get a little taste of where they come from if you didn't know. So what are its origins? Let's get to the meat of the question. Well, there's a couple of points here, and this is from simpletoremember.com, and you can look at the link down below. But we're going to read a little bit about the origins of it. Now, this is not the exhaustive detail of where it came from, but this is generally the understanding where it came from in history. Roman pagans first introduced the holy day of Saturnalia, a week-long period of lawlessness celebrated between December 17th and the 25th. So now you're starting to get an idea of where this actually came from. It had pagan roots, basically. During this period, Roman courts were closed and Roman law dictated that no one could be punished for damaging property or injuring people during the week-long celebration. It was completely lawless. The festival began when Roman authorities chose an enemy of the Roman people to represent the Lord of misrule. Each Roman community selected a victim whom they forced to indulge in food and other physical pleasures throughout the week. At the festival's conclusion, December 25th, Roman authorities believed they were destroying the forces of darkness by brutally murdering this innocent man or woman. So it's pretty scary, pretty sketchy. The ancient Greek writer, poet, and historian Lucian describes the festival's observance in his time. In addition to human sacrifice, he mentions these customs: widespread intoxication. That sounds like today. Going from house to house while singing naked. Rape and other sexual license during this time, and consuming human-shaped biscuits, still produced in some English and most German bakeries. Is that where the Gingerbread Man comes from? In the 4th century CE, Christian era, Christianity imported the Saturnalia festival, hoping to take pagan masses, the pagan bunches of people, not mass that we were talking about, in with it. So Christianity came in and they took a look at Saturnalia and said, let's turn this into something good. Let's get the people who are celebrating this, let's get them into the church and teach them about Christ, basically. Christian means Christ follower. Christian leaders succeeded in converting to Christianity large numbers of pagans by promising them that they could continue to celebrate Saturnalia as Christians. So it was a bit of a carrot at the end of a stick thing, saying, you know what, you can still celebrate your holiday, your celebration, but just focus on worshiping God and have all this other fun stuff along with it. So that's kind of where all that stuff comes from. The problem was that there was nothing intrinsically Christian about Saturnalia. To remedy this, these Christian leaders named Saturnalia's concluding December 25th to be Jesus' birthday. Now, another truth about it is that Jesus wasn't actually born on the 25th. A lot of people think maybe he was born in April or something like that, but he wasn't born on the 25th. I think we can be pretty sure of that. That's just a completely made-up date, and that's fine. Christians had little success, however, refining the practices of Saturnalia, as Stephen Nissenbaum, professor of history at University of Massachusetts Amherst, writes. In return for ensuring massive observance of the anniversary of the Savior's birth by assigning it to the resonant date, the Church, for its part, tacitly agreed to allow the holiday to be celebrated more or less the way it always been. So it was a bit of a, saying, well, you know what, as long as you come to church, you can still keep all your past sin and all your celebration and all the stuff that you were doing. You can do all that. So they allowed it to be celebrated more or less the same way it always had been. The earliest Christian holidays were celebrated by drinking, sexual indulgence, singing naked in the streets, a precursor to modern caroling. So that's where caroling came out of, naked singing in the streets. It kind of sounds like Mardi Gras, to be honest. The world is rampant with sin. Man is inherently evil. We are born into sin. We are born into evil. And our bodies just naturally seem to go towards evil. And we need to know that Jesus died for our sin, and we can be free from that evil and sin and be with God in perfection when He returns. And I think He's coming back pretty soon. Continuing, the Reverend Increase Mather of Boston observed in 1687 that the early Christians who first observed the Nativity on the 25th did not do so thinking that Christ was born in that month, but because the heathens' Saturnalia was a time kept in Rome, and they were willing to have these pagan holidays metamorphosed into Christian ones. Because of its known pagan origin, Christmas was banned by the Puritans, and its observance was illegal in Massachusetts between 1659 and 1681. So the Puritans who moved into the U.S., who founded the U.S., at least the European colonies in the U.S., not the indigenous, they actually banned Christmas from being celebrated. And they may have been right, but we'll take a look at that at the end and see. So they had banned it. However, Christmas was and still is celebrated by most Christians. And indeed, I celebrate Christmas. And we're going to talk about that, like I said. Some of the most depraved customs of Saturnalia Carnival were intentionally revived by the Catholic Church in 1466. When Pope Paul II, for the amusement of the Roman citizens, forced Jews to race naked through the streets of the city. Did you know this occurred? An eyewitness account reports, before they were to run, the Jews were richly fed, so as to make the race more difficult for them, and at the same time more amusing for spectators. They ran amid Rome's taunting shrieks and peals of laughter, while the Holy Father stood upon a richly ornamented balcony and laughed heartily. Again, this sounds like Mardi Gras. That's what kind of sounds like people racing through the streets and getting necklaces, thrown at them from people for basically exposing themselves. That's what Mardi Gras is. Women expose their breasts and they get necklaces, and that's kind of a large part of Mardi Gras. This sounds like Saturnalia. As part of the Saturnalia Carnival through the 18th and 19th centuries CE, rabbis of the ghetto in Rome were forced to wear clownish outfits and march through the city streets to the jeers of the crowd, pelted by various variety of missiles. When the Jewish community of Rome sent a petition in 1836 to Pope Gregory, let's see, what is that, 10, 5, and 6, the 16th, begging him to stop the annual Saturnalia abuse of the Jewish community, he responded, "It is not opportune to make any innovation." On December 25th, 1881, Christian leaders whipped the Polish masses into anti-Semitic frenzies that led to riots across the country. In Warsaw, 12 Jews were brutally murdered, huge numbers maimed, and many Jewish women were raped. 2 million rubles worth of property were destroyed. I think it's also interesting, again, the hatred and the persecution of the Jewish people. Every time, every story about what has happened bad in history seems to have a Jewish connection to it. The Jewish people being harassed or are persecuted, etc. I think that's very interesting to come out of the history of Christmas. So does it matter? Well, I wrote a couple of thoughts here. First off, it's your decision whether you celebrate Christmas or not. It's also your decision how you celebrate Christmas. It's not the real date of the birth of Christ, we know that. We can enjoy and celebrate the birth of Christ, however. There's no reason why we can't use that as a date to celebrate Christ. We don't use any other date particularly to celebrate the birth of Christ, so why not use that to celebrate his birth? We should be careful not to get sucked into commercialized Christmas. Commercialized Christmas is very distracting for everybody, and probably more of us need to do more to not get sucked in and to not just get completely consumed by spending money. And that's one of the devil's great successes, I think, with Christmas, is to morph it into such a commercialized thing. It completely distracts from the birth of Christ, which is what Christians, set out to make it represent in the first place, to give people a way to celebrate, but to remember to use it for something good, to turn a celebration, of evil into a celebration of something good, the birth of Christ. We should be loud and proud about Jesus during this time. We shouldn't be quiet about it. We should make known that the Christians celebrate Christmas because of Christ, regardless of the pagan origins of Christmas, which we realize is there. It's a great time to share the love of Christ with others, and you can do that by giving gifts to people, by sharing words, by praying with other people, doing good deeds for other people. Share the love of Christ. Every day is a good day to share the love of Christ. It's a great excuse to have excellent family time, and there's lots of holidays, holy days, throughout the year. Thanksgiving is a big family day. Christmas is one more of those times where you can get together with family, love on each other, and pray together as a family and pray a blessing for the year. It's at the end of the year, so you can pray a blessing on the new year. And it's a great time for that kind of thing. So you can use these holidays, whether they have pagan roots or not, for good. You can make them into good. And honor God through them. You can honor God through anything. You just have to change what you're doing when you're taking part in those, and make sure that you're not taking part in stuff that doesn't honor God throughout those periods. Ultimately, ask the question: does what my family do honor God? That's the question. Does it honor God? God wants us to enjoy this time on earth, even with the sin and trouble on this earth, the persecution that is coming and maybe is here for a lot of people. Even with this, He blesses us abundantly. We have so much to be thankful for. Just like we do at Thanksgiving, we thank God for all the good things He gives us. And we have so much to be thankful for at Christmas, not only the birth of Christ that we celebrate, even though that's not when He actually was born, but with the abundance, a roof over our head, and money in our pocket, shirt on our back. And we should share the love of Christ abundantly in response to all these good things that we recognize as we take a week off or a couple of days off for Christmas, and we give gifts to our family members, and we do good things, and we celebrate the birth of Christ. So I would put it out to you during this Christmas season, and maybe even on Christmas morning, make sure to tell your kids why we do these things. We do these things to celebrate the birth of Christ. I know my sister actually has a birthday on Christmas. A birthday cake on Christmas, and they actually have a birthday cake for Christ. That's their way of including Jesus and remembering the birth of Jesus on Christmas, making it a birthday, because that's what we celebrate, the birth of Christ. And so they have a cake, and they cut a cake, and they have candles, etc. And that's part of their Christmas tradition, and I think it's a great idea. And it doesn't matter how you celebrate Christ, just do it. Get out there, celebrate Him, honor Him, and the Lord will bless you if you're honoring Him through these things. And use these times, and they may be very dark times as well for other people. They may be pagan holidays for other people, but you can use these times to spread the light, to share the light, to shine the light in dark areas of our world, no matter what time of year it is, what holiday it is that we're talking about. So that is it. That is the pagan roots of Christmas. Hope you learned something new. That was kind of my intention, to maybe teach you something new if you didn't know it before, and have a good understanding so that you have a good grounding for what is Christmas. What is it all about? It's completely made up. The Christians didn't make it up either. It has a completely pagan root, but we can use it to honor God if we just set our heart and our minds towards that.